make it there and can make it back.
Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. And if you are watching on the YouTubes, like I like to remind you all, you can see the beautiful face that is joining me today. That is my favorite alley-oop to give to my guests. To my beautiful guests, please introduce yourself and thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you, Dee. I am Phylecia Jones, and I don't know, these days I like to think I'm a woman of many mysteries. I've had like a very full life, but for right now, I'm an online entrepreneur. I run a company called I Find You Clothes, where I research speaking opportunities for people. But the other thing that I do and why I'm here is because I'm a full-time RVer. I love to travel, and I've just done some really cool shit.
Yes. I am intrigued by some of the awesomely cool things that you have done. And this is going to be a really, really interesting conversation for me, especially for the podcast. In general, I know that for those of you that have been fucking with the kid for a while, there's an intersection of travel, right? Travel is so much more than vacation. I like to remind my listeners every week of that fact. And this week, I wanted to have a well-seasoned traveler come on and kind of speak to I guess, is dynamism a word? The dynamicness of a person. But like people are more complex than just their love of travel. People that like to travel happen to also, I don't know, either by accident or on purpose. I'd like to think that, on purpose, be really interesting freaking people. So I was intrigued by you being a full-time RVer because a few years ago I had Vaughn Dabney come on and speak about his tiny home. It was wicked cool. He built out this truck to be his home. And it was like, ooh, can I downsize? That was one of the biggest hurdles that I considered. But then I was considering, at the time, I was a single Black woman. So I'm like, ooh, scary. It's bad enough living in an apartment in the middle of a community that is grounded and planted to the ground by yourself and feeling safe. How would I feel traversing the country on my own, especially in the spaces that would accommodate for a home on wheels? And here we have a Black woman who can speak and attest what it is like to be a Black woman that lives in a traveling home. So please, Phylecia, what is RV life like? And I'm assuming somebody else listening would like to know.
Most days it's pretty quiet. It's so funny because like even talking to my family, very much Southern middle class family, they're all worried about my safety. They think somebody's going to come hatchet me, while we're out here. And I was like, y'all live in a big city. Y'all should be more scared than me. But it's been a very interesting experience. We've had our RV for 5 years, but we just went full time back in November of 2022. And it's like I really can't describe the experience of just being on the road, being able to get a flavor of all these different places. It forces you to travel differently. And I know a lot of people these days, we kind of associate travel with getting on a plane and going somewhere very luxurious. And I've done that. Trust me, I have traveled to many, many countries and I love it. But it just forces you to travel very differently because now you're kind of living amongst people and not just showing up at a hotel. You're not just down the street from anything walking distance. You got to be very intentional. But it's also just been relaxing, at least for me. It has been relaxing, gives me time to think about things. Right now, I'm in the middle of New Mexico on Cochiti Lake. It's absolutely gorgeous here. And you just get to have a window into the beauty of here in the United States. And you just don't get it when you are, on an airplane. It's just very different. And it's also just cheap. Like right now, I mean, I think we're staying at a place that's like $12 a night to come and hook up. And yeah, you have water, electricity, and you get to do all the things you would do and bring all your stuff with you. So yeah, it's been a really cool experience. And I know I'm pretty sure you're going to have more questions about safety and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, go ahead, throw them at me.
So, for one, what was your travel experience like prior? Did you travel more as a solo traveler? Were you like a girls trip person, or have you and your partner been together long term so that you guys travel together extensively? Or was travel in the RV like your entry to travel? Like, what was your experience before you decided to make it like a full-time part of your life?
This is a good question. I think my first solo trip, I was 8 years old. My mom put me on an airplane to go visit my aunt in Cleveland. So I think a lot of my travel has always been kind of solo. When I graduated from college, I started working for the Navy as a computer scientist, and they started sending me places to Europe. So either I was with a coworker or I had to go by myself. And of course, over time, you meet people and you travel with them. So
Wait,
I
I'm
never, I
sorry.
can,
I'm going to pause
uh
you. So,
huh.
was that your first job after college?
Yeah.
A scientist for the fucking Navy
Yeah.
that travel the yo. So your your entry into the game is like like let me step on the scene with some
Yep.
gangster shit. That is so freaking cool. How
Yep.
awesome is
First,
that? What, please do
it
tell.
was cool. I mean, like, and I guess, even from, I grew up in Birmingham, and just going off to school in Atlanta was, I was one of those kids that I was packing up the day of graduation. I was like, get me out of here. And then when the Navy offered the job, it was right around 9/11. So I had to
Ooh.
wait a month before I went out there. But I was, my mom came and helped me pack up my apartment. They moved me out there. My mom was like, well, I'll see you in a few months. And then just dropped me off at the airplane, and that was it. And so I had to learn California and San Diego by myself. So everything's kind of been a little bit solo. So yeah, that was the first job right out of school. And
Wow.
within 2 years, I just happened to land on a project, and they said, oh, we don't have anyone that could travel, because everybody was like married or had kids. And I'm just like, oh yeah, like I got nothing to do on the weekends. And I had to go
True.
get a passport within 24 hours. I just happened to be dating this guy that was in San Francisco that I would go see a lot. Like, so I need to get a passport, and there is one in San Francisco. And like within 3 days, I was on my first trip to Germany. They sent me to Baumholder, Germany. That was
Wow.
pretty cool. And so after that, it was just like game on. Anytime I could leave, I just left. And then once I met my husband, he was my intro into camping. I've been to Yosemite before, but he was like, "Oh, let's go camping." I'm like, "Okay, camping," and been addicted since then. And he's my intro into RVing, because this is how he grew up. He
Wow.
also wants a boat and all that kind of stuff. And I'm a national park junkie, so I love national parks. So it just kind of worked itself out, I think, over time.
So, okay, that was one of the things that when I saw, first of all, two TED Talks. Quite round of applause in the mic for that one. Congratulations on that. Um,
Thank you.
if you wouldn't mind, I know the topics of your TED Talks were STEM, but if you
Hmm.
want to touch on that, what exactly your experience in STEM is, and like I meet the most incredible people through just the lens of talking about travel. And here we are, please. Yes, TED Talks.
Well, the TED Talks came, I eventually, when we moved to Colorado, a lot of travel stopped, because I had just gotten married, and you're trying to figure out, like, okay, how is this about to work? Yeah. And that was the first thing, like with being married, like, oh, I have to tell somebody I'm going somewhere. Like, oh, that's new. Like, oh, I can't just get on an airplane and go somewhere. All right, cool. But, you know, it came about when I started my job. I took an early retirement, and I started my first business around helping people budget with money. And and that encouraged me to kind of start. The first TED Talk was all girls are good at math, and I was just tired of women saying they're bad at math. And I just correlated that to the numbers that I saw in the tech world with women in STEM. And I just created the story from my experience of why it is important that we have more women in the STEM world and in the tech world, but all coming down to this little thing called math, and making sure that we keep encouraging young girls and women to just like, hey, you're not bad at this. Just people told you you weren't, but they just lied. So that's kind of where all of the TED Talks came. And then of course the second one was Tech Needs a Kardashian. And that was just playing off of the influencer world. And like, maybe if Kim Kardashian got into the world of tech, we might have a lot more women in it. Who knows? They got money. Let's play with that for a bit. So I just figured if I ever had a platform like that I would always dedicate any talk to the women in STEM, because it was my computer science degree is literally what opened the door to all of this travel and all of these experiences. And I always tell people, you know, especially if you're going into technology, especially as a woman, it literally can change your financial life and future. And I always attribute just that little decision and taking that job, working for the Navy, kind of just changed everything for me to where I am now. So yeah, it's been a fun journey.
So what exactly does computer technology entail from a girl that was chronically saying she is bad at math? And to your point,
well,
I can find my sale price. I know what change I'm supposed to get. So
that's all you need.
Hello, Pythagorean theory. Who? It's on sale. You know what I mean? What's important?
And, you know, I mean, as far as technology these days is everything. I think technology is the backbone of everything. Where I started, I was a programmer, but I chose to go more into networking. And that was basically putting together networks. So how we connect through the internet throughout the countries and through different buildings and things like that. They have better words for it now because that lets you know how old I am. But that's where I started. My husband is a programmer. He makes video games for Sony. So it can kind of go all over the place. And the other thing that I do love to tell people when it comes to technology, because everybody thinks like, oh, these are girls who only focus on math and extra nerdy. I have to tell you, my little side hustle was baton twirling and dancing. That's what paid for college. And I was a professional cheerleader while I was in San Diego. So that was like my little nighttime gig.
How cool is that? What have you done across the spectrum?
I don't know. I don't know. I just, you know how you just walk into these situations that like, okay, let's give this a try. I never tried it before. And, you know, also being bored. And I was like, well, I was a baton twirler. I can dance a little bit. So let's go and see if we can make this happen. So I don't know. I just try to have fun and have live different lives. And I encourage everybody who's watching this, if you have not seen the documentary about Tina Turner, it is hands down one of my favorites. Because what I really didn't know is that she became a superstar in her 40s. I don't know if you knew that. All of the things that she's done, she was in her 40s. So she wasn't a 20-year-old fresh, you know, out of school, you know, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. She was like, she had put in the work. And from there, it just reminded me that you can literally go and live a whole other life because you got the time to do it. So that's kind of how I approach most things. Just go live all these different lives. Why not?
I fuck with that heavy. Truly, I do. Thank you for that. And before I forget to say, you are a badass. Like, you have done so many super cool things. I think like the mark of a real badass is someone that can do so like things that are not technically related and still. And I also hope that someone's mom is listening to this that said you could never make a life of baton twirling. Here we have a baton twirler. I got through college as a computer scientist at that, y'all.
It opens doors. It opens up odd doors, you know, or at least for me, it opened up odd doors, you know, not going into like entertainment, but it paid for college. It was the scholarship. And, you know, and then you just meet people along the way and you drop, you know, hey, I was a baton twirler, you too. And here's another weird one. I actually spent a summer in a circus because I met somebody who was a baton twirler. She had a circus troupe and she's like, come join us. I'm like, okay, I got nothing else to do. So all of these things, I always just say, do the things that make you interesting. So when you are in these situations where opportunities pop up, you never know how you connect with somebody. You never know, somebody was secretly a baton twirler and you just don't talk about it anymore. And you may have a best friend for life.
So what was life in the circus like? Hello, we're going to move back to that. You can't just drop that.
That was, you know, it was short and it was fun. It was just for a summer.
What
And
more do
I
you
went
really
to
need, right?
I know. It was called the Fern Street Circus in San Diego, and the young lady I met her at a baton twirling conference, and she was like a body double for Alyssa Milano on the show Charmed. It was like
Which
one of
means
those.
on the show Charmed. That's like one of the greatest shows of the fucking 90s, early
I
2000s.
love
I've
Charmed.
watched it maybe top to bottom 2 or 3 times. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm
that's it,
on
just two or three.
flow. Wow. So Alyssa Milano's stunt double.
Yeah,
Wow.
she did like whenever she had to do some of the I guess
Yeah,
some of the
like half the
twirling
show.
things. Yeah. Yeah. So it was always kind of cool. So you meet that person, and then I just did that for the summer, and then my job called and sent me to London, and then that kind of like, oh, we get to go travel. So I'm kind of easy. You dangle a plane ticket in front of me, then I'm off.
Okay, so how about this one? What would you say, spur of the moment, what would be your favorite spontaneous trip that you've taken then? Considering they cross so many different realms of life experience.
Spontaneous. I don't know if this is
Like,
necessarily
what was like the
spontaneous,
weirdest
but
yes you gave, but
back
then was like, you
in,
know what?
I've been
I
running my
like this
business,
little
or
version
this
of my
particular
life
business I
here.
have,
This
but
was a good one.
yeah, it was 4 years I've done this one, but right before I was trying to do all the marketing for it, I met a guy over Twitter. Nothing like dating, but it was just like, oh, he seems smart. I want to know him. He was out of the UK, and I joined his email list, and he would send out this email once a week saying, hey, is there anything I can help you with? And I said, hey, my birthday is coming up, and I think I was turning, I forget, it was my 40th birthday or something like that. I was like, do you know anybody who needs a speaker over in the UK? And he says, yes, I do. Next thing you know, I booked an international speaking gig. I did my walkabout when I was 40, and that kind of like changed all kinds of things in my life, because I like going to cities and just walking and thinking. So it wasn't really spontaneous, but it just kind of came together, and that led to all the other things that happened after that, the TED Talks and all that kind of stuff. So so it was kind of cool, and that was a solo trip, and that was one of probably the not the craziest trip I went on, but I didn't have anything booked. And I didn't have anything booked, and I was like, oh, I was a Marriott girl. I was like, I got the Marriott app. I'll find somewhere to stay.
Okay.
And did that. And also at the same time, I saw that one of my high school friends on Facebook was in London. I was like, where are you? And we met up the night before. And I was like, as long as I can get to the airport by 8 a.m., we can hang out. And that was probably one of the craziest nights I ever had before I left London. And I had to get back to wherever I needed to be before the tube shut down. So it was a fun trip. I was exhausted.
That sounds like a good time. Okay, so what got you guys into RV life full time? You said that you had dabbled with it for a while before. What made you guys kind of, okay, no, we can do this, period. Let's leave the house behind.
I mean, the long answer is, my husband's been talking about this for years, but I had I had the crisis of being all, cool in my brand and my business. I was doing a television show and things like that. So it was like, I can't do this and I can't go back and forth. The short answer is the pandemic, like literally like, life is short. Screw it. Let's go do this. So it's been something that's been on a table for a while. We've had the RV for 5 years, and we would pack up and go to some of my speaking gigs. And I've always been hesitant about the full time, because like, how are we going to do this? How I'm going to get it back and forth. But, when the pandemic came, it shut down everything and changed life completely for me. And also, he's always wanted a boat. We've always gone to boat shows. We've done sailing lessons, and we went to the boat show like in 2021. And I just turned to him. I was like, look, parents are getting older. We're not getting any younger. Let's do it. And we bought a boat last year, and we were like, all right, let's just sell the house. And that's what we did. And no, we bought the boat in 2021. So we packed up everything, minimized, and said, let's just go full time until the boat is ready. And that's what we did. So I think the pandemic literally just changed priorities. And, I always kind of say, I don't know if you're a big Marvel person or watch Endgame, the Avengers, and at the end when old Captain America comes back and he's talking to, I forget the new Captain America, and he says, Tony said, go live some of that life. I decided to go live some of that life Tony always told me about. So I kind of always look at that. I was like, we always talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it on Twitter. Everybody's like, here's my bucket list. Here are all the things I'm going to do. And it's like, you know what? Let's just go do it. Like, if we screw up, we'll figure it out on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things people always talk about. Oh, when I retire. You hear about so many people that retire and 6 months later they're gone, or right before they retire, they pass. Like, a lot of people don't make it to retirement, or a lot of people don't get to enjoy, their retirement years. God forbid you retire and then your parents get ill. You know what I mean? Like, my mom retired and then, my grandmother took sick. My grandfather passed. It's like one thing after another. And it's, where is the retirement that you saw for yourself? You can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but you can absolutely change what's going on in your present life. And so that's really a testament to living the life that you actually have and not planning for a life that you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So
it's been an experience.
What, even in my not sedentary, but like my non-mobile life, life is an experience however you live it. So you might as well just do it in the way that's going to make you the happiest, right?
Might as well.
So what was the downsizing process like? I know for me, I feel like that would probably be the more difficult end of trying to, because in my mind, the idea of RV living, my only concern would be pulling up into a neighborhood that granted, you could Google, right? But how many ways to Google are like, will I be safe as a Black woman here? Or if I pull up and then also in my head is just like, what do the parks, I guess because I've never seen them before, right? I don't know what I'm thinking of when you're driving along the turnpike or you're just doing a road trip and you see like those way stations or the truck station. In my head, that's what the trailer stations are like, right? So in my head, they're like maybe 3 miles off the side of a highway. So any transient serial killer coming through is like fair game. That's what my mind is thinking to when I hear someone that says, oh no, we just live in the RV. And I'm like, oh, so y'all like 3 miles off the highway and any of the killers is just like, boop, got him. You know what I mean? So please correct me. I would like to be wrong.
Girl, killers only like cities. No. You know what? I mean, all these things kind of ran through my head, is the like, okay, where are people like, I've watched, The Hill Have Eyes, and my husband and I, we love horror movies. So it's like way too much stuff in your head.
Yes. Last House on the Left. The one where the people have like the open house? That shit got me. Open house, nuts. Whoa. Yeah.
So, and I honor all of those things because I was there too. I'm like, okay, we're going to get hatched up and killed, so like the first few, I'm like, where are we going? Interestingly enough, depends on where you go. Most RV parks, you can do the ones that are literally off side of the road, which is like in Kansas, don't do those. Or you can go extra bougie. Some of the RV parks we've been to, they have your own little tiki bar, grills, little yard with a tree and a dog thing for your dog. Some are right on the ocean in Florida. So it can be as bougie as you want it to be or as cheap and not as bougie as you want it to be. Inside of the parks, the state parks have been really cool. Like here in New Mexico and Arizona has some of the best state parks ever. They always have a ranger driving around. So you always see the ranger, and people kind of stay to themselves. People are nice. Everybody waves. Everybody's a little nosy too at the same time. Cause everybody makes fun of you while you're trying to back up and seeing how you mess up. Cause that's what we do. But people kind of stay quiet, stay to themselves, and no big issues that have ever run into. The smaller RV parks where people are more full-time, like they stay there longer, you get a lot more retirees, and they're a little nosy. They're just nosy, like, who are you? where
Right. They want
y'all
to
from?
be
You can help us.
friendly.
It's like, we don't need to talk to you. Like, go away.
Yeah.
So,
They want to
and
stay
of course,
nice.
when you're around nosy older people, they know everything, and so they know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I say on the other side, you will have some places that you question because places have flags, and people,
Mm-hmm.
we're in this era of people like to wave their flags. A lot of parks are a little bit better about that, but I mean, I am a little aware, extremely aware when I go to places. Some people say you carry guns and stuff like that. That's totally up to you. I'm not a gun person.
Same.
But yeah, but I love a machete and some pepper spray though. Uh, but for the most part, I haven't felt unsafe anywhere we have gone. We've been to a couple of parks where it's just like, okay, this is we call them one nighters. You stay inside and then you pack up and leave the next day. But most of the places, it just depends on how you like to travel. If
What
you
are
like the
those
nice
like?
parks, the one
The one
nighters,
nighters.
I'm gonna sound so bad. Usually you could tell it's a lot of long-term people, and they don't
Okay.
treat the property as nice. So you kind of get a lot more. Okay, we see a lot of things going on and stuff like that. Kind of looks like the neighborhoods where folks just throw all the sofa out in front of it. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Got it.
Yeah, and so those are the ones you just like. Just one night, we just need somewhere to sleep, and then we're up and gone in the morning. But a lot of these places are kind of resorty. They have the pools, the washer and dryers,
What?
marinas. They have showers, bathroom facilities if you don't use the showers in your place. The state parks, they have showers, facilities, and they're always clean, except for this one. This one looks like a little scary one here. But for the most part, but we're on federal land, so it's like, yes, the U.S. government, they won't give you a nice bathroom, of course. But for the most part, you have facilities, you have the rangers that are always driving by. You have to show your passes to get in, all that kind of stuff. So no creepy people walking around. Your biggest thing, depending on where you're staying, mice, rattlesnakes, and any other animals that are out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is that planning process like in terms of your travels? Because you would like to think that you've got complete and total free access, right, to go anywhere. But I know for one, like trailers and buses and large vehicles aren't allowed on certain roadways. I don't know if it's highways or interstates or whatever, but I know that you would have to navigate accordingly. So, how does that play into how you like to travel?
As far as the driving, anywhere where you can get an 18 wheeler, you can drive, because you're going to be lower and smaller, unless you're one of these people that's towing something extra large. You're fine. You can go under most underpasses. You just need to know the height. But the biggest thing, if you're going to do any RV travel, do not use Google Maps or any of the popular maps. You need to use what truck drivers use, so that they'll route you around low underpasses and things like that. So there's tons and tons of apps like there. We use RV Trip Wizard, and it'll route you around big cities if you don't want to drive through, say, like Houston, which is scared the crap out of me. So it'll take you around if you want smaller roads and stuff like that. And most RV people take the other highways so that you don't drive straight through cities. So the planning that way is easy, as far as, just the driving and the maps and things like that. But it kind of does come down to how you want to travel. Some people plan 6 months out. Like my in-laws, they plan a year out because they go to the same
Wow.
places in Arizona. So they book a year out. Some people plan 2 days before they leave.
Okay.
There are about 5 different apps, and, they Harvest Host. These are ones you can stay one night at, like wineries, breweries, golf courses. So, and it's free. You pay, they don't charge you as long as you go in and like drink up their stuff.
What was that called?
And Harvest Host and Boondockers Welcome. But Harvest Host is one of them. And there are a few other apps, and that can kind of lead you to all these different places. So it kind of depends on, if you're going to popular places. Like we messed up. We tried to book Florida back in November. We were way too late booking Florida, because the retirees, the snowbirds from Canada, they go
Got it.
down there in the spring. Summertime is great because nobody goes to Florida in the summertime.
Nobody.
Uh,
Makes sense.
uh,
Be
but
landlord.
any place where you gotta fight with the retirees like Arizona and Florida in that springtime or winter, plan way out. But places like New Mexico, we literally just plan 2 weeks ahead. We just got on their state park website, and just did it that way. And we just finished planning Seattle. Seattle's kind of hard because it's kind of like Colorado in the summertime. Everybody wants to go.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to feel your way through popular places. And also it depends on the types of parks that you want to stay in. If you need full connections with the sewage, water, and electricity, that determines in how big you are. But you can also boondock. You can go on state and federal land, park for about 7 days, and pay like $10 or stay for free. We've done both.
So when you say boondock, I just discovered that was actually a thing that wasn't just the cartoon. That's exactly where I was going with it. What was I looking? Oh, I remember what I was looking up. I was looking up stuff about Joshua Tree because I have this little mini series in the podcast. It's weird things about places I've been, and it's just for some reason I never really do a comprehensive Google of places before I go. It just tends to be one of those, oh shit, that happened there. Oh snap! I actually looked into that. Oh, I'm glad I didn't know that before I went. So anyway, mini little series, and I was looking up shit about Joshua Tree, and I did not know that there was, and it's becoming more apparent now that I'm hearing you talk about it, and I'm remembering some of the stuff that I saw. There is an entire community of people, and it just fucking follows that you guys would make the resources work for each other, and that you would make it as tech accessible and like less convoluted. And it's another reminder that just because you don't understand the workings of something doesn't mean that other people don't have it figured out. And y'all sound like y'all got it figured out. And it is not like amazing in the sense that, oh my God, I never would have thought that could have happened. But like because I say this because boondocking apparently is just being completely off the grid.
Off the grid, yep.
I had no fucking clue. I was totally mystified, if you will. And so for one, there's a name other than just being off the grid. And two is that it is absolutely legal. Like you can do this without like legal repercussions. Like nobody's coming for you. So what does that look like? And what is the difference between boondocking and just like going to an RV park? And are trailer parks the same as RV parks?
No, trailer parks and RV parks, one is a tax thing. The longer you stay, they turn into like kind of like an apartment versus a hotel type deal. Trailer parks, you're going to get those double wides that stay on property and people who either buy the land and stay. RV parks are going to be like your hotels for RVs. Sometimes they have permanents, but they can't have so many because it changes their tax structure and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So RV parks will give you kind of more amenities, sewage that you can hook up right next to you, water, power, internet, that kind of stuff. And the price can, be around $30 a night up to $200, depending on how fancy you go. So when it comes to boondocking, we talked about it, but we weren't really sure like what it was. And so we decided to try it for the first time last year. And we went down to Great Sand Dunes National Park, and there's a popular place where you just drive, get off the road, and you choose a spot, and it's free. And this is it's usually federal land, so any type of Army Corps of Engineers. So the land we're on right now is Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Federal Service, or Bureau of Land Management. So that particular place was BLM land, and they tell you where you can go.
Also. I kept seeing BLM, and I'm like, I feel like this is not the BLM. I'm thinking
no,
they're not striking me as very Black Lives Matter kind of here.
No,
reading the room and through context, I need to do more research.
This is one. Yeah, this is Bureau of Land Management, so you can only stay for maybe like 14 or 21 days, but basically you just take everything with you. You find you a piece of land. And there you go. Now, everything is on you. You got to supply your own water, your own, you'll have your own toilets and stuff like that. and your own power. So you can have power off of your RV. Or we bought a thing called an EcoFlow, which is a solar generator. So you got to have generators or solar generators. And we just plop up our solar panels, and it gives us the power during the daytime. We have a little bit at night. Or we run the generator, a gas generator, so we can still do things. You're gonna learn about power if you go boondocking. You can't like turn on your blender, your hair dryers and all that kind of stuff. So all power matters at this point. So you'll just be doing basic stuff, making sure you have enough power to turn your lights on, play with your computer, probably not watch television, but enough to get you through the night. And then the next day you start all over again. But yeah, absolutely free, no cost. You stay as long as you don't have to dump your sewage tanks, and you're good to go. So we did it for the first time last year, and it's kind of cool. Another thing you may think about is safety. Interestingly enough, you'll have enough of they call it rangers or the park people. Okay. They come through enough, or you have local and state police that come through. And people are generally fairly nice. They were like, is it okay if we like park next to you? It's like, yes, like, don't bother me, and then most people are there for a while, and you just leave. And and I was always paranoid. I was like, somebody gonna steal our RV if we go to the grocery store? Nobody stole it. We did have a coyote one night.
It just attaches to your truck, right?
Yeah, somebody has to be like for real wanting to steal your stuff to do all of that. But yeah, it's just a hitch, and people have had theirs stolen, but we haven't had any issues. The coyote kind of attacked our grill because that was our fault for not cleaning up the food on the grill. So yeah, so no hatchet people. There were cows around us, which was kind of cute.
Wild cows? Are cows ever wild? I feel like they wouldn't be in the wild.
No.
So how did that happen? Did they get off of someone's property? Because I'm like, if I got cows, I'm keeping track.
Usually when you're in some of this, like the U.S. Forest Service, BLM land, or some of the agricultural land, is the people who live there, the ranchers, can use the land. So you're kind of just be nice, share. If you see the cows, don't be weird. They belong to somebody. And they're just going to kind of graze through and eat all the stuff and poop. Yeah. So you'll see that a lot on a lot of the federal land and things like that. So yeah, the RV thing, you can make this as cheap as you want it to be, as rugged as you want it to be, or as fancy or as bougie as you want it. And we've kind of done this spectrum. When we've gone to cities, like we were in New Orleans, we were in in a marina. So yeah, and they had a restaurant on site and things like that. Ooh. So it makes it easy to just go eat there. You walk by the people on their boats, or you come to a park like this, and then, you change up how you do things. You're not wearing high heels and nice clothes all the time. So you can do the free land. They call it dispersed camping. That's boondocking, dispersed camping, or off the grid. Usually those are all, those words if you're looking for a free. Also, when you come into like state parks, they'll sometimes have beach areas. Right now we're at a dam. So they'll have beach areas. So you pay your state park fee, you pay your pass for like $70 for the year. You can go stay on the beach and have access to the showers and the facilities and kind of have a decent, cool little life.
Wait, so do all state parks have accommodations for RVs?
I won't say all of them, but a good chunk of them do. And I will say I'm only, I don't know every state park, but we've done state parks in Alabama, Florida state parks. People love those. We've done state parks in Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico so far. But I would say a good chunk of them have access for RV people.
And so as long as you pay that state park pass for all of them, you have access. So you could literally live off of just state park lands that you have access to for that $70 if you wanted to.
So it gets a little different. So if you're going to do boondocking, you can go do that because you're not taking up a site or electricity. If you're trying to get a site or electricity, you have to pay the per night fee.
Okay.
And we have found that the per night fee is anywhere from $10 to $25 a night.
It's less than what I pay. So, I mean, I think you're winning that one.
Yeah. So the New Mexico parks, we've paid like $12 a night, $14 a night. You don't have sewage, meaning you have to dump your own sewage, but we have access to water and power. And depending on how close the bathrooms are, we'll go use their bathrooms.
So, how do you dump sewage if you don't have it included in your daily thing?
You have poop hoses. Uh, you have to buy your own hoses and you have to store them under your RV. So you have to connect them each time. And each site will have like a little sewage thing and you connect it there. And when you're ready to dump, you pull a thing and you watch weeks worth of all your stuff go down a hole.
You revisit that again. Okay, but it doesn't seem like it's not rocket science. It's not like you have to like biohazmat suit up and go through like some it's just like you just it's a hookup to some place that actually you just
Yeah.
have to find a waste management place. And I would assume that even if you do like is that something that like all parks would kind of have? As long as they would have, I assume, something to hook up.
So most sites will have, depending on RV, depending on where you are. So if you're ever looking, look for something that says full hookup. Full hookup means they're at your site. There's sewage, water, and power. Um, if it's partial hookup, that usually means is either some version of water and or electricity only. So usually when it's at your site, then yeah, you just put your tank, you put your hoses out. When it's time to dump, you take care of it, come back in and watch TV, and you're done. For a situation like we're in, we are going to have to dump in a couple of days. So we pack everything up and drive over to the little dump site, like 3 minutes away. So usually most national parks, you probably have never paid attention to them. But if you go near the campgrounds, it'll say a dump station. A lot of what are those things? The truck things have them. You don't see them until you're looking for them, and now I see
Right.
them everywhere. But state
Okay.
parks have them, and then they have a whole lot of different technology. It's not technology. They have little poop buddy stations. You can buy a little extra thing you can dump and then like walk it over somewhere. So they have a whole bunch of little gadgets if you ever want to get into the gadget world of all this.
So what how often do you think you would have to do that like in a month?
To dump,
Yeah.
de- depends on what you eat.
Okay.
It kind of depends on kind of what you're doing. Like if you are, it comes down to how often you're showering, how long you're showering. If you're one of those that needs to contemplate life in the shower, you're going to be dumping pretty often. If you like to wash your hair all the time, if you like to eat burritos every day, you're going to be dumping pretty often.
I didn't consider that it also is your wastewater. I was thinking just toilet stuff, but it's
No.
also the water that you use.
Yeah, so you have a black tank, which is your
Okay.
toilet, and then you have two gray tanks. One gray tank is the sink, and the other gray tank is like the bathroom. It's the shower and the sink in the bathroom. So we have two gray tanks, one black tank, and most of the time we have to dump the kitchen gray tank more often because we just
Yeah.
washing
Food
dishes.
waste and stuff like that.
Yeah, but for me, I've kind of timed it probably like every 5 days. But inside of, depending on how what kind of RV you have, they have gauges that'll tell you if you're full or
Wonderful.
not, and you just press the button. They may not work after a while, so you have to kind of time it. Like, it's time to dump, and the worst sign is when you get the smell, and it's like, okay, it's time to dump.
It's not.
So,
Yeah. You'll figure it
yeah.
out one way or another.
Or when you're in the shower and you have a puddle, like, oh, it's time to dump. Okay.
Okay. Real easy reminder.
Yes.
So I know you have a little furry baby. What's it like traveling with your dog?
You know what? This little dog, I think she's traveled more than most humans. She has been pretty cool. So when we first started this, we had a cat and the dog. The cat passed away.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry.
dog, yeah, Mr. Little Kitty. The dog, she's pretty cool. If we get into a space where there's a lot, not that many people around us, which happens only in the state parks, we can kind of let her go off leash as long as we watch her. And I think I told you the story. of how she is so disrespectful. I let her get off leash because she runs to the door for breakfast. She ran and tried to get into somebody's tent. It was so embarrassing. It's like 6 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, it's like the walk of shame.
Come here. Come here.
I was like, I had to grab her because I know they heard my footsteps next to their tent. So hopefully, I'm pretty sure I scared the crap out of them. But she was just trying to, oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad. So now she is not off leash. She lost all her privileges. And for that whole day, she knew she was in trouble. So I didn't talk to her for the whole day. But she knew. She went in her little bed and stayed there the whole time. But usually it's pretty cool. Some parks just require that you keep her vet records and, you know, she has all her shots. But for the most part, no, she's not a barker. Some people's dogs are, but she's been cool on these trips.
How about with like, well, for one, did you have to like acclimate her to, this is going to sound wild, but I guess I might be thinking of a city perspective. Like, but did you have to acclimate her to outside spaces? Like my dog is a city dog, right? I live in Queens. However, so like I have a yard, you know, like my parents have a yard. So when we travel and she stays with my parents, it's like she's on vacation because they have a huge yard. So she has nothing but space and time to get herself into shit. But I still wouldn't trust her off leash either because another disrespectful furry child that has no manners or any care and concern for how I feel about things. But she thinks she's a person and she will be everywhere. But my fear also is other animals, right? So she's got no sense. She has no desire for self-preservation in the weirdest sense of the way. I truly think she has, but I mean, I guess why would she, right? Like, why would she have a reason to preserve her life? I thought that was natural instinct. It's apparently not. No. But my fear is she's going to run off a cliff, or that she is going to eat something poisonous in the great outdoors, or that she'll see a snake and not know, hey, I shouldn't fuck with you, or a scorpion. I'm thinking all kinds of wild outdoor things that my little baby that lives is my little New York little bird, you know, she a little bird, but that's my bird and she don't know no better. So she'd be like, what you want? And now she's attacked by a fucking raccoon.
Yeah, I have a suburban dog. She has no life preservation. She loves everybody and she is not very bright. Even when we go like into the South in the city, we walk the dog. I was like, all right, Aspen, like, you know, country dogs, they ain't the same as little suburban dogs. People put them on trees. So no. And I was like, people put their dogs on trees out here. So you can't like, these ain't the same dogs you're used to. All of what you said is what I still am worried about because she is just not bright. So we just have to keep her either on short leash. You just kind of, you know, when you go into a park, you read all of the critters that are around. Especially when we were in the Southwest, you got to worry about rattlesnakes. So we just make sure if she's on leash, one of us is walking ahead of her. We keep her pretty close because she is not bright. She will eat the thing, play with the thing, touch the thing, try to jump off the thing. So
I'm glad mine is not the only one. Okay. So Hover Dog Parent Unite. They have lived and made it thus far. I've kept her 15 years strong. I'm hoping for maybe another smooth 6. I'm asking for a lot. However, my heart desires.
That's good.
So
you know what? You leave her home with the AC. That's what we do most of the time.
Right. And see, that's my fear. I was telling you before, I think that I want to take her on like a little doggy vacation because she is a senior girl and I want her to have as much of an exciting experience of life as I have tried to give myself. And, you know, that's my little fear about going to places that say they're okay with dogs, where it's just like, okay, but if I want to go out to eat with my person and leave the dog behind, like your idea of dog safe and my idea of dog safe may be 2 different things. Having a dog that has no realm of appreciation for self-preservation, I don't know what you think, a dog will never get into this. Mine is nothing better than getting in and out of things, just chaos. So I would, you know what I mean? It's like you're leaving her in your space, in her space. So it's like I can get feeling more comfortable leaving her in, she's home.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that's my only fear of like bringing her someplace that is like, yeah, we're perfect for dogs, but like there's no like crate room, or there's no like, super large second bedroom that's got nothing down on the floor or whatever. So I don't know. I gotta play around with
Yeah, you
that
gotta.
idea.
I mean, one of the issues we camped, and we can't leave her in the tent when we go into a park.
Mhm.
One, she learns how to open up the zippers, the little dog. Um, so we figured, I mean, half the reason we got the RV is because of her. So we make sure she's comfortable. We put all the garbage cans up on the counter because that's just what she does. And
Mhm.
she goes straight to bed.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the time. You're a dog, you have a puppy, and you can't be out too long, or, they'll be mad at you when you get back. But for the most part, we haven't had any issues in the national parks and some state parks. You can't take her on trails,
Mhm.
so we just leave her behind. But you can always go for the drive, and she'll go for the drive and do some of the lesser trails off of the visitor centers, which they have no problems with. But she sometimes is too. She likes talking to people, so we just leave her because it's just more work for me.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
Folks get it. So, but I just want you to touch on that very expensive conversation about the boat. What are your anticipated plans for boat travel? Like, I never heard of anyone that
Oh,
does boat travel. The fuck? Please enlighten
oh my
peasant
gosh.
me. What is that life?
I have to tell you, I am so ready to get on the water right now. Like,
Really?
it's, oh my gosh, it is. It started kicking in big time, like, especially because I started following a lot of the sailing clubs and things like that, and it's like I'm sitting here in the desert and they like out in the Bahamas. Like, what is this? So I am so ready to get on water. But yeah, so when this adventure is done, we bought a 42-foot catamaran, and we're going to sail the East Coast, the Florida Keys, and then eventually go over to the Bahamas.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. And it's called coastal cruising. So if you've been to Fort Lauderdale, right?
Nope.
No, all right. All right. So you can get on your Google Maps, everyone. It's called the Intercoastal Waterway, so the ICW. For those of you who've ever been to Fort Lauderdale, you know that there's this little waterway where you see all the boats and the houses and all the rich people and things like that. So that intercoastal waterway, which is not the ocean, you can take that all the way from Florida up to Annapolis and skirt the coast all the way up to Boston and into New York. So with coastal cruising, you're just slow motorboating, and you're doing
Hmm.
these waterways. You can anchor, you can boondock, you can anchor in certain places, or you can go into a marina, which is just like an RV. You could pay the marina fees, get the power, electricity, the sewage by gas and things like that. Or you can anchor out in the middle of the water and get your little dinghy and go in and buy your groceries and then come back. And that's absolutely free. Internet's going to work the same way. You get some type of satellite internet, or when you're coastal cruising, you're still next to land, so you can still hotspot and use your cell phone and things like that. It took me a while to realize, because my husband kept talking about this, and I always tell him, I said, "I love you, sweetie, but you don't sell things very well." Because I was like, "We're going to be in the middle of the ocean doing what? Like, why are we in the ocean? Like, I don't understand this." But with the coastal cruising, yeah, we're going to still be connected to land and things like that, and visiting, cities on the waterway like the Charlestons and stuff like that, and the Keys. Now, when we do an ocean crossing, we'll do a crossing over to the Bahamas, down to the Caribbean. Eventually, he wants to do a big ocean crossing going from the East Coast over into Europe. And for those, you got to have crew. So I gotta make some friends over the next few years who want to do some overnight sailing.
But like 40, I have no concept of what 42 feet is. What is that like?
It's pretty damn
Two
big.
trucks? Or how many, like,
Yeah, it's with the catamaran. And so if you're familiar with a catamaran, it has the two hulls. If you ever done any of the catamaran tours, done any of those type of boat tours. So it's not a monohull, which is just a typical sailboat that kind of rocks back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
You have the two. It comes with 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, and
Wow. Okay.
dining area, outdoor area, back area, things like that. So it's probably bigger than any apartment I've ever had.
Copy. Okay. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, a whole ocean, and what I'm thinking is the
A
size
little
of
rowboat.
like 2 Jeep Cherokees, and I'm like, that sounds a little precarious, bruh. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. Maybe not for
I will
me.
send you pictures. I will send you pictures
Please.
so you can get an
Like,
idea.
I am intrigued. So, have
So
you sailed a boat before, or what? I mean, I am all down to do things that my partner wants to do, but I, um, marginal swimmer at best. I have only done like, I don't want to say water taxis, but like, the ferry that'll take you
mhm.
from like St. Martin to St. Bart's. Been on the
Yeah,
Staten Island ferry a single time. Like, and then of course you do stuff like, oh, swim with the sea lions. Been on that little boat. Swim with the
yeah,
manta. Been on that little boat. Okay, now I've got a point of reference. I'm thinking that maybe the boat was
a
okay. No, y'all
catamaran.
both bigger because they ain't have no downstairs for that one. Copy. I'm putting it together. But what kind of experience or what about that are you not terrified about? That's where I think I'm going.
I don't know who at this point it's like, well, as long as we don't die, we're good. Um, I'm a very marginal swimmer in a pool. The ocean is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
You can wear your so there's a couple of things you could do on boats. You have to chart out where you're going. If there are storms, you stay put. You don't go out into a storm. You do chart plotting. You do all these things to prep yourself, and you just stay in tune with weather reports. And that was the one thing when we did our lessons. You're just very in tune with weather reports, and then of course
Lessons.
after a while, yeah. So we did a week of lessons, and we need to go back and refresh. So we're part of a sailing association and things like that, and we practice man overboard. There's a lot of safeties that you can do to latch into your boat or your craft so that you don't fall over. Life vest. I've always liked the water. I don't like being in it. I like being like on top of it. So I think you just have to kind of be ready for an adventure. And yeah, am I scared of doing an ocean crossing? Oh hell yeah! Because my husband likes to watch these movies where they go out in these big old waves. I was like, this is not a great way to sell this to me.
Not the
But
precursor I was looking
no,
for.
no.
Yeah.
But you do your sailing, and which is crazy. I have a friend. She just sold everything. Her and her husband never been sailing before, never been on a boat. They just sold it all, bought a boat, took the lessons, and got a captain on the boat to teach them. Now they're out there sailing. So now she sends me pictures of them down in Dry Tortugas, sailing up to Annapolis. Because right now, all boats have to start moving up north because of hurricane season. And that touches with your insurance. So now they're going up north to Annapolis. And I'm just like, I'm so jealous right now. Because the dolphins, she sent me videos of the dolphins playing next to them. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the desert. Yeah.
That's a reason to kind of suck up the fear and kind of get into it. Okay, so
Yeah.
last question.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who has tech experience, outside of what I was telling you, my experience is what does Best Buy have on sale and what does Google say about said sale item? What would you suggest for someone to have as their because you work as a professional for one, and you're mobile. What is your Wi-Fi situation, and what about VPNs? What are your thoughts on them? Do you use them, and would you suggest any of them?
I'll start with the VPNs. I don't use a VPN unless I'm trying to watch something over in the UK. So that kind of depends on you. I have used them when I'm doing research for my job. My husband uses a VPN so that he can get back into work. So not a problem with VPNs if you want to use one. It kind of all depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to hide yourself from your job, whatever, no hate. As far as the internet goes, it has gotten a lot better since 2018. Before, we would just hotspot off of our cell phones.
Okay.
So, of course, you just bump up to the highest plan. And my husband is one of those. He makes things appear, and I ask no questions, so that in case somebody takes
My
him off
kind
to
of
jail,
guy.
I was
My
like,
kind of
don't
guy. I'm
tell.
with it.
I was like, don't tell me how you do this because I don't want to know in case they come and get you.
Listen,
But he
my
had.
daddy was that kind of guy. Well, he still is. God bless him. He's still around. Didn't kill you early,
so
Dad. My apologies, bro. Keep going.
so when y'all are ready, you just let me know, and I'll tell you what he did, so it could bypass your hotspot, so it doesn't look like you're using up a whole lot of data. So
Genius.
so we've done that, but now we have Starlink, and depends on if you like Elon or not. Each day I kind of cringe, but Starlink is out there and is pretty darn cool. Especially if you're in wide open spaces. It doesn't work very well if you have obstructions like trees and things, but out here, out west, clear open spaces, I mean, you're perfect. You could do just about everything, no data limits, and we kill it. We watch 2 TV shows while working at the same time. Our backup is a Verizon hotspot. It seems nowadays T-Mobile might be the better one. So you can pay for those hotspot. And it's just literally just a little box. You turn it on. And that's about it. So there's a whole bunch of other things that people use, but because we're a mobile, Starlink is it. Verizon is our backup. We might switch over to T-Mobile depending on, we're going to go to some of the parts in the Northwest, and Starlink may not be our best option because of tree coverage. So we have to have a backup so that we can keep working. And I will tell people, like, have some patience, because you may get some places and, the internet will test you. And I do fewer video calls for work now. I'm old school. I go with phone calls because some days I just don't know what I'm dealing with. But right now, I mean, all of the phone companies, they're stepping up with all of their options if you don't do Starlinks. And it also depends on what region you're going in. So you pull up a whole bunch of maps to see where your coverage is. And for some people who are couples, or if it's multiples, somebody will get a cell phone on Verizon, somebody will get one on T-Mobile, and you just toggle back and forth if you need to.
Okay, that makes sense. And Starlink is satellite
internet.
Makes sense.
It's I was trying to see if somebody around here had one. But yeah, it's just a little satellite on a pedestal. You could put it on a little flagpole, and as long as it points to the northwest sky, you're good.
Okay. Rocket science. Your phone got a compass, because I wouldn't know where it is.
I know.
Front, back, up, down, left, right. That's all I got.
Yeah, and it's simple. You plug it in, and it finds it itself, and there you go.
Oh, you don't even have, there's no configuration and setup and all that other kind of jazz?
No, you plug that thing in, and it's like, and boom, you're done.
Bravo. That's my kind of technology. Because, baby, directions, I read just fine. I promise I do. I'm also pretty decent with most comprehension, but some things I feel like... So did I need an extra degree or not? Because this seems like it should be straightforward, and I'm struggling.
They made this one fairly simple. There's an app if you're like in a place with trees, and you can kind of just walk around with your app, and it'll kind of give you an idea of the best place to put it. Or if you drive into a place and you see 4 other people with a Starlink and it's all pointing in the same direction, just do what they're doing.
Jump on board.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Phylecia, thank you so much for joining me. Where can the people find you? What do you have going on that we can support you with? Like, what is the next step in the expansive, multi-passionate, hyphenate world of someone that does all the really super fucking cool, interesting things? Where can we keep up?
Okay, you want to keep up. So if you want to keep up with just my travels, the photos and everything, you can go over to keepupwithmrsjones.com. And I try to do like a weekly, daily, depending on how I'm feeling, travel diary of all the emotions of this trip. And I post photos because that's my little hobby, is
beautiful
taking the
photos,
camera
by the
out.
way. I don't know how I skipped over that part. You are an incredible photographer. Those photos, I really like the one with the kayak. And that one stuck out to me. I really enjoyed that one.
That one was cool. We were kayaking on the Rio Grande in between the United States and Mexico. That was really cool.
Holy fucking shit! How cool is that?
Yeah, so you can go touch Mexican land and do it before you get in trouble.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. So yeah, so all of the photos, my little travel diaries, and I'm going to launch a blog part of it in the summer. That is at keepupwithmrsjones.com. What pays the bills is I find you clothes, and that's just me being a research nerd. And I find conferences that are looking for speakers, and people pay a subscription, and that's how I make the money to fund all my little extra things that I do.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for sharing all of your dynamic and diverse intersections of life and travel.
Thank you.
And being a guest here on Travel and Shit. I absolutely appreciate you being here. And I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, guys. Fuck with y'all next week. Bye.